And welcome to the Barry Foster Show on YouTube, originating from the Ridge Floor Studios in the City of Charm, beautiful downtown Avon Park. I'd like to remind you, if you have any thoughts, ideas, or suggestions, topics you'd like us to talk about, people you'd like us to interview, you can just put them in the comments below, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. Show the algorithm we are very responsive. We are going to be taking sponsors on the program, so if you would like to be a sponsor, we can arrange that as well. Just drop me a line at thebarryfostershow@gmail.com, and we'll send you a rate card. It's going to be a limited time offer. We're only going to have a few sponsors in here, but there's some people who have said that they want to help finance the program, and by gum, we're glad to do that, okay? And check the YouTube page here daily as we put up new programming Monday through Friday. At least that's our goal. And subscribe to our YouTube page and join our pages at The Barry Foster Show on Facebook and Instagram. That would be very helpful. In the studios, John Larsen.
Good morning.
Good morning, John. We have the president on a sweep of the Far East.
Yep.
And I just saw where he landed in Qatar to refuel. And the emir of Qatar told him that he was not allowed to take off till the emir came in and said hello to him. And so they did about a 5-minute press conference when the emir said, Trump said, he wouldn't let me go until he said hello to me. So he is, despite what the leftist here will tell you, he is loved around the world. He got met by all those dancers over there in Malaysia.
And he did the dance with them, okay?
Yeah.
He did the Trump thing, okay?
And they were kind of doing like a Trump dance.
Yeah.
He said that the one thing he wanted to be remembered as was an international deal maker, and apparently one of the 7 wars that he put a cap on, the one between Thailand and Cambodia, was starting to heat up a little bit, and he sent a note saying, "Look, I thought we had this settled," and it settled right back down. So
yeah. Well, I think the thing that's really, I think, made this possible for him to be able to resolve some of these things is what happened with Iran. That was the big thing right there, because everybody, I think, sat back, all the world leaders, if you will, sat back and said, "Oh man, he did that to Iran. Woo-hoo. And this is big.
World War III didn't happen.
No."
And I'm going to try to do some more. It's interesting. I live between 2 neighbors. One is currently in Thailand, right now, to see some friends, and the other guy is from Cambodia. So I'm going to talk to both of them and ask them, because all his relatives still live in Cambodia. So I want to find out from them what the deal was and what's happened. But it looks like that is one of 7 deals that has stuck. They're going to come to at least as long as Donald Trump's in the White House.
Well, I think the other thing is that in the Hamas-Israeli conflict, I think still it's, they were supposed to lay down all their guns. Hamas was supposed to lay down all their guns. Well, that hasn't happened, because what they do on day one, they executed a bunch of their own people, because I think they thought or knew that they were collaborators in some way with Israel. And so what they had public executions. So they didn't lay down their guns, and they still have plenty of guns probably hidden everywhere, all right, and so on. So it'll be interesting to see if there will be a lasting peace over there, and if they can come to some kind of resolution on the whole thing and get the rest of the dead hostages back. Yes. I know they said yesterday they got 2 more, I think, back, and so on. How many more exactly are missing, I'm not sure, but from what I understand, all of the missing and all of the dead hostages were females. And so, where they ended up over there, I don't even think they know.
Well, we've had that discussion about they didn't want the story to come out, so they probably executed them, and they're going to hold on to them long enough to make it look like they've been dead for a while. And it's a sad situation. And anyone who's read the Bible knows that there's not ever going to be real peace there, although the Lord has put things off. He said, he told the Jews, you're going to go into captivity, but he held off for 400 years. 400 years got me covered, okay? Mm-hmm. So this Donald Trump has done as much as any president and more than I can ever remember in my memory to bring peace to the world. And again, I'll say this again. I think that the reason he likes peace is good for business, and he's a business guy, and he wants things to go smoothly so everyone can have commerce and have fun. And in fact, I think was it yesterday he put another 10% on Canada because of the governor. I think it's the governor of Ottawa came out and was ugly to him.
Well, also in the far western part of Canada, can't remember the name of the province, but anyhow, they have now struck a deal with the Americans to build the oil pipeline because they have huge oil reserves up there.
Was that Saskatchewan?
I
don't
it's
know.
In the far western part of the country, I think.
Okay.
But anyhow, they've signed or came to an agreement to put a pipeline into the United States with oil from there. And matter of fact, they had talked most recently about wanting to become part of America and not part of Canada anymore because they have this rich oil reserve and they know they're wealthy and they don't want to necessarily share it with the left-leaning, administration that's in Ottawa and so on. So yeah, I mean, it's quite a story and it's going to be interesting to see where Canada goes because I heard it yesterday. They get 21% of their imports come from the United States. Mm-hmm. We get 2% of their imports into the United States. All right. So there's a huge trade imbalance and Canada knows that. They're not going to be able to sustain this thing. They said, well, we're going to cozy up with China. Good luck with that.
Yeah. Good
luck with that. China will come in and take everything you own and some stuff you don't own.
Well Donald Trump is as a deal maker, and he was an international deal maker before he was a president. Okay, and that's one of the reasons that he has been able to move so freely through the world, because he already knows these people and he knows the major industrialists there. So government and the industry is all interlocked anyway. So he was already able to do this. What he'll be able to do after president, and I saw another headline. He's trolling him again. He says Trump says he's looking for a third term and not as vice president. So I just think that he's had a taste of this, and anybody who wants America to be first will employ his good offices to do things.
Well, of course, the current hot button thing that's going on right now is the shutdown.
Oh, the Schumer Shutdown.
We're closing in on day 30, almost a month. All right. So we will see. Now, here's the thing that I didn't understand. And they had Judge Napolitano on this morning explaining this. The fellow that came forward to give money for the troops to get paid, that is supposedly not able to happen because you can't give unless Congress, the only way they can get paid is if Congress funds it. Congress isn't funding anything now. So they're saying that there is a program where if you wanted to give goodwill to the troops, you could give them a donation, but it can't be cash. It can't be, I'll pay, your rent or whatever. So to me, I don't know how this is going to end up. That is so insanely stupid to say that you can't do that, to give somebody something. But I have to believe there's a way. I don't think this guy stepped into $160 million without thinking and having his lawyers check this out.
Let me tell you, the difference between economics and government economics is like the difference between a bicycle and a Corvette. Okay,
yep.
How government financing works and we've talked about how it would be better to have fewer lawyers and more businessmen in Congress.
Amen.
But I can understand how that might work, but I understand also that Americans have been great at finding their way around things, and he will find his way around it. I think Donald Trump's first term in office was an astonishment and trying to figure out how government worked and how you could and couldn't do certain things. We had a county commissioner here who was pretty good at business and pretty good at math. And about 3 years into their first term, I talked to them about what they were trying to do, and they just shook their head and said, "This is so much different. This is so much different from the business I'm used to." And it had taken her the bulk of her first term to figure out how to make these things happen.
Mhm.
So I understand this guy going in figuring, well, I'll just stand good for it.
Mhm.
Not a problem.
Right.
And in the past, there were industrialists. Back in the 1700s, there was some industrialist, I don't know his name, who came and paid down the entire national debt. And he just, I have the money, I'll pay down and he did.
Mhm.
He paid down the entire national debt. And for a while, a couple of hours, the entire national debt was zero. But you can't do that now.
No.
They've got it all jacked around. And the thing is, I keep hearing how this is on this recording, we're 2 weeks in. We're 2 weeks in on the Schumer shutdown, and they say, well, it's turning against the Democrats. I haven't seen it, because the Democrats will not negotiate, and they're out there bragging about how our pain is their leverage. And when the people get tired enough of it, they'll say, oh, just give them the $1.5 trillion that they want, and Trump's saying that's not going to happen.
Well, here's the thing that I think is going to set it ultimately. I think come the 1st of November, which is next Saturday, I believe. All right. Food stamps and that are going to stop. Food stamps, SNAP program is shut down. There you will see, and I've already seen it, weeping and wailing like you can't believe. I'm going to go steal the stuff I want if I can't get my food stamps. This is the mantra that's being spoken today. So I think there'll be so much furor in the air that the Democrats are going to have, and let's face it, a lot of the people that are on food stamps are Democrat voters. A lot of them. Not all of them, but a lot of them. I think there's going to be furor, and I think there's a way, and it's probably already coming. There'll be some memes or something out there that will show how the Democrats have shut this government down and kept it shut down.
Yeah, and the idea is now to tell those folks, if you want to make sure the checks keep coming, you may have to get a job. I saw Mike Rowe, who was talking about the millions of jobs out there, most of which do not require a 4-year degree.
Right.
Most of which do not require a 2-year degree.
No.
And we've seen the little hand-lettered signs on some of the fast food joints. And I saw one, it was a very sad sign to me, was stuck on a fast food joint, and it was at the drive-through. And it says, we're closed because no one chose to come to work today. Mm-hmm. Okay? Yeah. And these are people that are flipping burgers, taking orders, mopping the floors. I mean, you don't need a college degree to do that, but you get a paycheck.
And the other thing is, the requirements to continue to get your food stamps is you must work 20 hours. If you're able-bodied and have no small children that need babysitting, all right? You only had to work 20 hours a week. 20, or you could do community service.
I've seen the memes where the guy says, I ain't working for nobody. Well, I thought, whoa. Yeah, the Apostle Paul said, he who does not work, neither should he eat. Right. And so, I mean, the idea is and the Apostle Paul also said, a laborer is worth his work, So you pay something. People, I think you feel better when you've worked for something and got a paycheck for it.
Well, there's a reward for work. I mean, unless you absolutely hate your job. Well, if that's the case, get another job. But I mean, if you like what you do, there's a reward at the end of the day, the end of the week, okay, that you accomplish something. Even if it's mass production and your job is to put a widget in a box, it's an accomplishment. That's that's what you're paid to do. That's the job you took. So, I mean, it's the business of, I don't have to work, I don't have to do anything, but we have made the society, it is such a taking society today in a large part of the country and large part of the communities where people are taking but not giving.
We've created that ourselves.
Oh, we have. Oh, the government created that.
We've complained about this for a long time.
Yes.
And I think that in fact, it's been now probably 15 years ago when Dale, when we were back on the radio, brought this audio of these two talk show hosts in Texas. And they were talking to this woman on the phone, and she got welfare. And the one kept asking her, well, doesn't this embarrass you? And her response was this 4 or 5 times. Well, if they offered it to you, wouldn't you take it? Mm-hmm. And I said, well, no, I mean, if I don't need it, no sense. I'm not going to take money I don't need. In fact, when they kicked that money over during the Biden administration, gave everybody $1,200, we put it in the bank because it came back. Oh yeah, we're going to charge you taxes on that.
Mhm.
So I used that money to pay the taxes back on it. But I didn't have any doubt in my mind they were going to ask for it back, and so we didn't spend it.
Mhm.
We didn't, and that's people think. That's what's caused the inflation is the pumping of money into the economy.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So people need to. We have not had what they used to call the Christian work ethic. You go to work every day, and like you say, if you don't like a job, once you've got a job, as my sainted father used to say, once you got a job, it's easier to get another job because somebody had some faith in you.
Right.
Okay, so you're working and you're working in a warehouse. Say, I hate this working in a warehouse. I want to go into food service. Okay, fine. You move from the warehouse job to the food service job, and then you say, well, maybe I don't like the food service job. Maybe I'll get into cleaning, house cleaning or housekeeping, that kind of thing. You kind of poke around till you find something you like. And I used to tell people, I said, you have to have one of the big three. You either have to like your job, like the people that you work with, or you get paid enough money that you don't care about the other two. But if you hate your job and you hate the people you work with and they're not paying you anything, it's time to go to Career Source Heartland or your career source and say, hey, can you help me find a job that I'm qualified for?
I had a lot of jobs over the years, a lot of jobs, but every job to me had some things had some issues. I'll say that. And I had some issues. All right. But every job was a rewarding job. At the end of the day, you could look around and say, all right, what did I get accomplished? And if you worked for a boss who knew what the job was all about, what needed to be done, you were on your toes all the time because at the end of the month, you had to have so much production out the door. You had so many dollars out the door. What was the income? What was the expense and whatnot? And you had to justify any expenditure that was any specific amount of money. You had to justify that. It couldn't just say, hey, boss, give me $10,000. I want to buy this widget. No. You had to write a proposal and you had to justify the expenditure. And if the boss didn't think it was justified enough, you didn't get it.
It is amazing how once one goes to work, how your opinions change. And I've told this story before, but I had a stepson who came home one day. He was mad. He was furious. And what are you mad about? And he showed me his paycheck. And across says, this is what I'm supposed to be paid. And I said, and he said, and then showed me the bottom of the page. He says, this is what they're giving me. And I said, well, you see all these little things in the middle? He said, yeah. I said, well, there's people that need that money. He said, I need that money. I said, welcome to my world, pal.
There you go.
Okay? Because we want to have zeros in there. Okay, I don't mind paying for police, fire, and ambulance, for the military. There's a lot of other stuff I don't want to have to pay for. And so, as begrudging as it was, he began to look at things in a different light. Had nothing to do with me. So I think that with this looming change, there will be people who decide maybe I'll just go get me a job. Because that girl that these two guys that Dale had, they said, well, what happens if they cut off your benefits? And she said, well, I guess I'll have to go find a job. And there are jobs, and 20 hours a week, believe me, is nothing.
No.
I know people work 20 hours a day.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, that's what I say. And you can do it in the form of community service. Not even punch a time clock. I mean, you can go to community service, all right? I'm going to go work at some welfare office. I'm going to sweep the floor or something like that. Yeah. That's your 20 hours. So they couldn't make it any easier. But getting people off of their backside and out the door to go to work, oh boy, they're screaming and hollering up and down Main Street.
Nobody likes change. Nobody likes stuff that's going to make them work. But I think what is happening under Donald Trump is he is cleaning up a lot of messes, and this is one of the biggest ones.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
And this is, I don't know I'll use this term. This is playing into his hand. He has already said that he's gotten rid of federal employees, okay, that didn't they didn't need. They've only a smidgen, probably less than 1/10 of 1%. But they've got rid of them, and they're doing away with Democrat programs that he considers to be worthless.
Slush funds.
Yeah, so it's moving away. The question is, can they make it stick? That's the next question.
Well, unfortunately, a lot of the things that have been done so far have been done by executive order, and that's not law. So unless you can transform that into law, come next administration, if it's not the same party in power, those things are just going to be swept away.
Well, the big beautiful bill codified a lot of those.
Some of that,
and I think there's going to be a bigger, more beautiful bill. If the midterms go the way it appears right now, but as Limbaugh used to say, the issues that are going to frame the next election haven't even happened yet. So, but I think that if it goes that way, there'll be another bigger, more beautiful bill that will codify more things.
Well, I hope so. If they retain the House come 2028, 2026, I think there's a good chance that they'll be able to pass another bill that will codify some of the things they put in this one, but also expand it. Because there's no doubt we are $37 trillion in debt.
38 now.
38. And you watch that debt clock, it goes faster than you can't keep up with it. Your eyes can't keep up with it. It
like a ceiling fan. Well, and they've said, well, this is unsustainable. You think?
Yeah.
But the Supreme Court is looking into something that may change the entire political landscape when it comes to voting.
Oh yes, absolutely. I mean, now I've heard voices say that it's already been voted on and passed by the Supreme Court. I've heard other voices saying that it's under advisement, under study, and they'll be issuing a result sometime this week or next week. But either way, what it is, it goes back to Louisiana filed a suit in Supreme Court, Louisiana versus Callisis. It was a change in voting districts from race-based versus people-based. It approved it could change 25 to 35 seats in the House because those seats were based on racial lines, not on population lines, which is what the original intent in districts were. They were done. So many districts were supposed to have so many people within a district.
Yes.
It didn't care if you were white, green, brown, purple, yellow. It was how many people were there in that district.
Yes.
Then when this was done originally by Lyndon Johnson, all right, Lyndon Johnson signed this law that said, no, we're going to make the minorities a more popular party by giving them districts that are all minorities.
They are underrepresented, so
Yes.
we're going to change. And so just so folks know, the original gerrymander was a voting district that was drawn to get the number of registered of some party. I know one of the other parties to get those in that this guy thought would help him out. And when it was like one of those constellations in the sky, and they draw a line around it. Oh, look, that's Orion's belt. Look, this looks like a bear. It looks like a dipper. Well, this looked like a salamander. But the guy who was running for office was named Jerry, so they called it a gerrymander. So it stuck. Gerrymander stuck. And the idea was, oh, well, this certain racial component is not well represented. So we're going to draw a line so it looks like all the people who reflect this guy, this DEI, this certain demographic, will they'll be able to get elected. And it was about 40 years ago. I was doing a remote for another radio station far, far away, and we were doing a remote at the Burger King, and the manager of the Burger King sat down with us, and we were having a discussion. And off mic, during the break, we had this discussion, and he says, "Well, our people, in this case, who were African American or black, whatever, had to be represented."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Well, don't you think women need representation?" "Oh, yeah." I says, "Well, how are you going to draw lines for that?" "Oh," he says, "Well, you got me there." I said, "Yeah." I said, because anybody who is elected, let's take our friend Kaylee Tuck. she is to represent everybody in the district, not just the young white women.
No.
That are there. Right. She represents everybody that's here, and whoever you are, whatever your demographic is, your job is not to represent only the people who look like you. It's to represent, to do what's best. And here, when she first got elected, for instance, one thing that she had looked out for was agriculture, because there's a lot of agriculturalists here. Okay, things that had to do with offshore fishing didn't really apply to them. We don't have very many offshore fishermen here. We have a lot of agriculturalists. So you represent the people in your district and what's going to be best for them. So it really doesn't, to me, it shouldn't matter what race, creed, color, national origin you have. What it should matter is your life going to get better by what they're doing there? In this case, in Tallahassee, but also in Washington.
Yep. Well, it's going to be very interesting, because this case, and it either is passed already or is about to be passed. And everybody that I've heard said it's definitely going to pass. They can't ignore it. Now it's going to be 5-4, 6-3, because you've got 3 or 4 justices on there that will never vote for that. Okay. And the rest conservative, if you will, they will. So it will pass either 5-4 or 6-3. But when that happens, then the districts have to be redrawn based on population, not based on ethnicity. All right. That's going to be a huge change, because you've got people like Maxine Waters and others who are in a district that are like 99% minority. That's a sure vote every time.
Oh, she's bulletproof.
And that's what's so unpopular about this whole thing. And in California, for instance, they've got only 7 districts out of, I want to say 55 or so in California that are Republican. But Donald Trump got 45% of the vote in California in the last election.
Right.
So they're totally unrepresented in the Republicans in California. And now Trump has announced that they're going to put monitors at the voting booths the next election in California, like 5 of the districts which are known to be very corrupt. They're going to put monitors in all 5 of those just to monitor how the elections are being run. And boy, oh boy, is Gavin Newsom, his shorts are in a knot. Okay. I mean, he's in a bad place right now. All right. He's in a bad place. Oh, he's ranting and raving about it.
Well, yeah. And let's say during bowl season, all right, when they have bowl season, that's when it comes to college football, that's one of my favorite times of the year, because you have 2 teams who've never played each other before from 2 different sanctioning bodies, and it's just it's interesting to watch how they play on, make the adjustments. It's a fun time, and usually when they're playing, I don't care who wins. They're just 2 teams. You're watching them, and I don't have their jerseys on. I don't live and die with them every game. So it's an interesting thing. But when they come in, they bring a referee crew from a totally different sanctioning body. If the Big Ten is playing PAC, they got somebody they got an SEC officiating team. They got an officiating team who they also really don't care. They're just watching 2 teams play football. They don't have they don't have a dog in the fight. So you have some reasonable expectation that these guys are horribly fair, because they don't care. They're just watching these guys play football. They just play by the rules, stay in bounds, don't rough the pass or whatever. So I would say that when it comes to these redistricting, they ought to bring groups together from all over the country that don't really care about your state, really don't care that much about anything other than, do you have districts? In fact, when I was a kid, when they redistricted Ohio, and Mr. DeZuro, our teacher, said he ran off on the Xerox machine these pictures of the state of Ohio with all the counties and their populations, and he said, what I want you to do is draw lines that you think that the districts should be. And we were like 8th graders, so okay, fine. And so, I had little crayons, so I did different colors in this one and that one, and I put the different districts up there and stuff. And we turned them in. And it took him about a week to go through them, and it was just an exercise. He goes, none of these would have ever been approved. None of these would have ever been approved by the political parties because we're kids.
Yeah.
Okay, we were just looking at numbers. We didn't know that Hocking County would have this many, or Cuyahoga County, or Summit County, or Wood County. We didn't know what their political leanings were. We just knew how many people were there.
Right. And I think, if memory serves me correct, I think the districts are supposed to have like 30-some thousand in a district. I think is somewhere I've heard that number.
Yeah.
But each district is supposed to have roughly that number of voters. It doesn't matter who you are, what your ethnicity is. It just matters that there's, let's say 30,000 is the number. There's 30,000, maybe 50 in that district. Move on to the next one. It's got to be 30,000 roughly. But when you make the district, I looked at one map the other day. It was Illinois, I believe. The western side of the state was almost the length of the state. That was the district, because they wanted to get that district to cover for a minority.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they did. So, this is, it's really discrimination is what it is. When you come right down to it, it's discrimination to have the districts drawn in that fashion. So now hopefully it'll take it back to an even number of people, no matter who they are. And if you can re-win that district, hallelujah, you're good. If you can't, then okay, maybe you won in the past because the district was structured for you to get elected time after time.
Or somebody from your party. Because interestingly, where we're sitting right now, we have a state senator and we have a Florida state representative, okay? Mm-hmm. And Kaylee Tuck's district, from where we're sitting, goes south and west, okay?
Yep.
Where Aaron Grawl, who is our senator, her district goes south and east. Because I said to Kaylee, I said, well, you're going to move up to the Senate? She says, well, I don't think that's going to be possible. It's just because the Senate district has only a very minute number of people. We share the same number of people. And she says, I don't live on that side of the state, so my moving over there and doing any of that, that's probably not going to happen. Right. So the idea of, and not that we want people necessarily to graduate from the House to the Senate to the, but at any rate, the way they're drawn, when she's done after 4 years, she may get out of politics, or she may go out into a statewide political thing. I don't know, but it's interesting that the districts for the House and the districts for the Senate are totally different.
Yeah,
they're totally different.
Yep. Well, I think there's good reasons for that. There's good reasons for this too. And it'll be very, very interesting to see now if this Supreme Court decision has been made or will be made shortly, then that is going to change the scope of how elections are run.
And the House has term limits, and I think that's a great thing.
Yep.
Because, if we had more people running for office and going in, the founding fathers had no idea people would spend their entire lives, 40, 50 years in government. They had no clue that was going to, because they pay them too much, they have too much power, and it's morphed into something that they never really thought was going to happen.
Well, and I think the decision that was made back when to the senators were always not elected, okay? They were appointed and whatnot, and they had to stay in their lane, because if they got out of their lane, they could be recalled by the state legislature.
The state legislature appointed the Senate,
right.
Elected the senators. It was not by popular vote.
No, and that was changed back, I don't know how many years ago, to become a popular vote thing, which I think was totally, that played into somebody's hands. I'm sure there was some very powerful people that made that happen. But that really destroyed a lot of credibility within the voting. Moving
that back, I think, would be a better idea.
Oh, I do too. Absolutely.
It's one of a number of things that need to be done. And again, I think under the Trump administration, and I like Donald Trump. Okay, don't get me wrong. I like Trump. I like the pillars of MAGA. I like what he's doing. Sometimes I think he does things that he doesn't really know that he's doing, even though he's doing them. Like returning a lot of this power to the states. That's real 10th Amendment stuff. But I don't think that Donald Trump has a copy of the Constitution in his pocket and refers to it regularly to say, hey, is this constitutional? Is this not? He just knows what's right and what's good for business. And so his returning things to the state is a 10th Amendment kind of a deal. I think a lot of things are going back the way they used it to be and should be. The question is now, he's got 2 years, really, effectively, maybe 3, but.
Yeah, 3 on the calendar.
Yeah.
A little over 3, but you're right. And a lot of what he's able to get done in the second half of his administration will be what happens at the midterms. And historically, the people that are in power most always, not all the time, most always lose the House at the midterm. This time, though, because maybe of the Supreme Court ruling, maybe part of that, but also I think it depends, to me, I think Trump has done just about everything he said he would do. The one thing that is still, to me, an oxymoron that needs to be corralled, and that is cost of living, the food element, if you will. I mean, that the basics of everybody's life is food and the availability of it. And so I think you have to get as much as you can. I sent him an email about a week ago, and just a suggestion, which I know he never sees, but I had to send it because it was something that's playing on my mind, and suggested that he call these various groups together, have a huge meeting. These are the people that are involved in processing, growing, and distributing and selling food. Okay, get them together and say, okay, what is the reason that prices aren't coming down at the rate we think they need to come down? And then put all their ideas into a mixer and say, okay, what can you do? What can you do? What can you do? And get all of their ideas, and then say, okay, if we manage to make these things happen that you want, all right, will we be able to get prices down? And if the conclusion is yes, we can do that, then all right, here's how we're going to make it happen.
Well, he's a deal maker.
Yes.
And he knows how to get those kinds of things done. And some of this may naturally occur by the changing of events. And to your point, that he's done everything he wants to do. I think he's got everything in place, but a lot of these ideas need now to grow. Like as it was explained to me, the pillars of MAGA. Number 1 is America first, putting America first in all the things that happen. And one would think that would be a natural thing. It hasn't been, because we've had in the White House, we have globalists who want to suborn the United States and make it part of a global economy that everybody thinks that they're going to be in charge of. So putting America first and telling other countries why you need to make your country first. You mean Argentina first, or wherever, make your country first. So that's in place, and that's now beginning to grow. The second pillar is peace, and he's put down 7 wars, and he's still working on the Ukraine, Soviet Union dust up there, and he said what he thought was going to be the easiest would be the toughest. But he has put down 7 and brought more peace to the world, and world leaders like that. They don't want us to fight wars. Oh. So and that's like this. We talked about the Emir of Qatar, or Qatar, that's there. The third position is jobs, and not just. He talked about how there's all these financial jobs, but we need to bring manufacturing jobs back to the United States. We need to make things again. Prior to World War II, 48% of the goods in the world were made in the United States. Yep. And he said we've shipped these overseas, and it's made business people very, very, very wealthy. He says, but it's hurt our people, and we don't want to have that anymore. And I'm trying to think. There's two more provisions of the 5 pillars of MAGA, which I didn't write down. I'll think of them. But these are things that are now growing, that are growing up, and you're having Republicans and Democrats who want to make America great again, looking at this going, well, this is not bad. Because people say to me, Trump's not a conservative. He's not.
Mhm.
He's not a conservative. Okay. He's probably at best a moderate. All right. But what he wants is he wants to trim down the size of government. Why? Because he would trim down the size of any corporation that he went into.
First thing you do.
You know?
When business slows down and whatnot, and it looks to you like it's going to be at least a foreseeable thing into the future, you have to make some decisions. And almost always, the first decision you look at is how many employees do we have and how many employees do we need?
Yes.
And if your need is not great, under what you have, then you have to take a look at, okay, how many people do we have to furlough to get the business down size-wise to what it needs to be? That's an unfortunate thing. Nobody likes to lay people off because that's their livelihood. And you understand that when you do it. But when business turns down, that's almost the initial choice you have to make.
The fourth pillar of MAGA is borders, because without borders, you don't have a country.
Mm-hmm.
And he's put that in, and he's sealed off the southern border. The northern border, I'm not quite so sure about. And we're getting no help from
cooperation.
Canada.
No,
and
I think I heard yesterday we've gone. I think it was 5 months with zero crossing the southern border. Zero in 5 months. All right, think about that. Under the Biden administration, there were hundreds of thousands that came across the border every month. Every month. To give you 15 to 20 million over a total of 4 years. And now we've had 4 or 5 months with zero people crossing the southern border.
And now we're trying to get the people that they let in to get rid of them.
Yes. Yes.
And I'll tell you that I was listening to a talk show. He's a lawyer. And people call him up and ask him for free legal advice. And this one guy calls up and he says he's got a green card, and he says, if I get deported, can I give my house to my wife and have her sell it, to get rid of the house? And they ask, well, you got a green card, you're not going to be deported. Well, have you ever been convicted of anything? He goes, well, yes. He goes, oh no. He says, what? He says, well, I was convicted of a hit and run. He says, well, under this administration, you're going to go.
Yep.
Once they get down to you, so you can get your wife a quick claim deed. But he said before they just said, that's 15 years ago. Who cares? That's old news. Da, 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 da. He said under this administration, you're probably going to go.
Yep.
And they are clearing out. And unfortunately, some of the babies are going out with some of the bathwater.
Well, if you remember, Tom Holman at the outset of this campaign to, send illegals back to their country, he said, yes, our number one goal is to go out and round up people that have a criminal record. However, when we invade a house, let's say, to gather up the guys that are criminals, actual criminals, and there are some people in there that didn't commit crime, but they're illegal, they're going to get swept up in that.
Yes.
He said, we're not going to differentiate because you're an illegal. You broke the law. You're hanging out with people that committed, robbery or whatever, and so on. So you're going to be caught up with them. You're going to go. And if there's what do they call it? An issue for deportation or whatever the courts decide.
A hold.
If there's one of those on you, you're automatically going. Okay. Because they've already looked at your case and said, you're not warranted to be here illegally. All right. You've got to go. So, yes, there's a lot of weeping and wailing going on, and the demonstrations that we see in Chicago, in Portland, in L.A., and other places, show that people are highly disrupted because, hey, this guy's been here for 12 years, but he has a criminal record. I'm sorry. Yeah. A criminal record means he shouldn't be here, and he committed another crime by coming in.
And what is happening is that despite the onset of robotics, there are still lots and lots of jobs. Yeah, the truth train is going to come through here in a minute. Good. Hi. That's commerce right there, John.
I know.
That's commerce in action right there.
That's what I tell people. I said, somebody said, John, there's a lot of trucks running by my house, dump trucks, all kinds of them. I said, That's business
That's
in
business.
action. Business in action. Okay.
Be happy. Be happy.
That's right.
And, speaking of this, this automation and the artificial intelligence and all this, you probably remember this a little bit better. I was very young when this happened, but I remember there was a big thing about automation.
Mm-hmm.
That the automation was coming in the 50s, and I remember seeing this cartoon of this guy sitting on a folding chair beside this big machine, and it was a giant switch that said on and off, and that was his job, is to turn the machine on and turn the machine off.
Right.
And Alan Sherman, the great comedian, songwriter, wrote a song to the tune of Fascination. It was called Automation. It's automation, I know, that was making the factory go. It was IBM, it was Univac, it was all those gears going clickety-clack, dear. And there was a great worry that there wouldn't be jobs for people anymore, that machines were going to take over everything. They haven't. Mm-hmm. And as long as there's people, they won't.
No, you know? I think AI is destined to take over a number of positions. And I think I heard a story the other day. It said that lawyers are one of the groups that's going to be greatly impacted by AI, because you're going to be able, if you want a legal interpretation of something, you're just going to be able to type it in, and this AI is going to give you a bona fide legal answer to your question. Mm-hmm. So those type of things. And Lester and I may have said this before, attended a lawyer conference here in Sebring 6-7 years ago. It was held. It was all the lawyers in this locale came together to discuss what problems are we facing. And I'll never forget the spokesperson for that meeting said then, and this is 6-7 years ago, that you're going to be swept up by, all the electronic things that are now available to people online. Mm. And you're going to be able to get legal decisions that will stand up in court by going online. And so the need for you, if you don't get into that scheme of things, if you don't become automated and sophisticated, you're not going to be a lawyer.
Well, artificial intelligence, there's something to be said about. It's just a method that will scrape the web to find out the information that you're looking for. And I'll tell you, I was looking for. Sandra had a question about supplements. And could we find this supplement at this dosage? So I went to all three of I went to Larry, Curly, and Mo, my three AIs, and all asked them all the same question. And the answer came back, they could not find the dosage of the supplement that we wanted. Mm-hmm. Because we were looking for 250 milligrams, because that's all the body can absorb. And the lowest we could find was 500. Mm-hmm. Okay. And they all said the same thing. Well, you could take a 250 or take a 500 and cut it in half. Like, yeah, we could figure that part out. But it scrapes the web for that information. So that, let's go back to this guy who needed a quit claim deed. Mm-hmm. He probably could go to Grok, Perplexity, ChatGPT, Claude, one of these AIs, and say, can you make me up a quit claim deed? And it'll ask you something like, well, what's the property? Where's the property? And then it'll spit it out. And you probably could take it to your attorney. So, well, I had this made up. And don't tell them it's from AI.
Right.
And they go, well, yeah, this looks good. Mm-hmm. This looks good. And You know what it cost you? Nothing.
Right. That's what this lawyer was saying here years ago when we went to that. I mean, that's literally what he said. If you don't get on board with this automation and what's out there that people can access for no cost, they're not going to need you. Mm. You're unfortunately going to be history. But
some of this stuff and quality control, some of this other stuff, and we probably won't live long enough to see the end part of it, but it's going to take over. But as long as there's people, we're going to have things we want to do, entertainment we want to have, and it's going to be. And I'll tell you this, is that the other day, my wife was trying to do something with her credit card. Mm-hmm. And we got in the AI loop, and there's certain things that you do. Finally, it goes, wait a minute, let me get you to someone that'll help. That's good, because you're there screaming, I want a human, I want a team member, I want an agent, whatever, because you don't know what their nomenclature is.
Right.
And finally, I get a human, I go, and we all tell them the same thing, thank God, because we can talk to you. Mm-hmm. Okay? We can talk to you and explain what's going on. And the guy was very forthcoming, took good care of my wife. Everything was done. I said, but the reason you get so many people who are just, one of them said, now remember, be nice to our agents now. And I tell them the reason they're so mad is because they've had to deal with this stupid machine that may or may not understand what you want and just put you. I had this problem with the home improvement store that they just put me in a loop and they just kept going in a loop. And finally, I had to call. I called corporate headquarters. I said, "Can I get a human person, please?" So I at least for our, I don't know about the kids. I don't know if the kids will learn to put up with that or not, or whether that's human nature to say, I need a human to take care of this.
I think they're already adjusted to it. But you're right. The thing that frustrates me more than anything is when you call some company looking for assistance and they'll put you on a chat line. I don't want a chat line. I want to actually talk to somebody to explain my issue, my concern, my problem. And boy, oh boy, you have to go through hoops to actually get a human that you can understand. Oh, they'll put a human on the line and they'll say, my name is Joe. No, Joe. No, I'm sorry. I need to speak to someone that speaks my language. Okay.
Yes. How's everything in Manila?
Right.
Yeah.
It's like I heard this morning coming up that why do we have all of these in California alone? They have, I think they've issued like 62,000 CDL licenses. All right. Why do we have such a problem now with English yet? Back in the Obama administration, they did away with the English language only factor to get a CDL, to open the door to all these other ethnicities to come to this country. All right.
I don't care about that. What I care about is, can they read English?
Well, that's the issue.
That's the thing.
That is the issue. Yes.
You want to be able to read, slow, construction ahead, something like that. I mean, you want to be able to have them know what's going on. And apparently at all the way stations now, if they can stop and make you read something, if you can't read it, they'll pull your license on the spot.
I listened to a truck driver calling this talk show coming up here, and he said in 2012, when I got my CDL license, specifically it said on the manual book that you had to study in order to get your CDL, English only. The test will be given in English only. Mm-hmm. Well, that was done away with. All right. That was done away with. But the other part to it is that fact that this guy said, here's a way to get around that. He said, when you have these truck weigh stations, you have a lane over here that says turn right if you have this, turn left. And he said, if they can't interpret English, they won't know what lane to go in. So I thought that was pretty simplistic, okay?
Hey, wait, the simple solution is always the best.
Yes.
And I will tell you that I got asked this question. There was a horrible accident here in Florida where a trucker pulled into a turnaround he was not supposed to be in. Right. Pulled his rig across the road, and a car full with 3 people and got killed. Got killed. And they found out that he could not read or write English.
Right.
And that's when this began. And a friend of mine called me and said, hey, they have a trucking course over at the college here at South Florida State College. Is English a mandate for that? So being the good news guy I am, I called over there, talked to the guy, and he said, oh, yes. Oh, yes, you have to be able to read and write English, before we can even deal with you.
Well, you saw this. You probably saw the video of the truck driver, the 21-year-old Indian that was on drugs that just killed, I don't know, one person at least I know for sure. And the damage, though, I mean, he never even slowed down. He was doing 60, 70 miles an hour, never slowed down. And he plowed into the car, a truck, another semi, and then he veered to the right afterwards, another truck and another trailer. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, 21 years old, could not speak English. He was on drugs.
Yeah.
He was from India.
Well,
I'm sorry.
I did ask the instructor from South Florida State College if he would come and be on the program and talk about this, because if you want to get a good job, go over to SFSC, go to the trucking school. You will be able, probably in your first paycheck, to pay everything back for that and still have money for lunch. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a real need, because it's trucking that moves. I don't care if they bring stuff in by airplane or by train at some place, it's going to be on a truck.
Yes,
And
yes.
The bread that brings that the bread that brings that bread to the grocery mart is on a truck.
Well, and the other thing that's going to happen, and it's already beginning to happen, because as these truckers are taken off the road, that load now is dead. That truck is stopped. So now you have to get yourself another person who's qualified, can interpret and read English, to be able to pick up that load and drive it. Then to be able to do that the next day, and the next day. So there's going to be an immediate need for an awful lot of truck drivers that can speak and understand and interpret English and read all the road signs and pass the test. Yes.
And be able to back up a trailer. That's why I'll never be a truck driver.
Neither can I. I've seen some of those videos lately. Oh my God. You wonder, how did he ever get in this predicament?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand it.
Now, what I've been told is what I've been told. The longer the trailer, the easier it is to back up. That sounds like turn in the direction of the skid, okay? That doesn't make sense. It may work.
Yep.
It may be true,
Yep.
because you should turn in the direction of the skid. But there's stuff we didn't even get to today, but we're going to get to tomorrow. For instance, we didn't get to the new ballroom being constructed. And there's a whole bunch of stuff here locally in Avon Park that I got to get into. So
That ballroom has turned out to be another head spinner for the Democrats.
Oh.
Oh my gosh, they can't.
who would have thought they'd have such problems with that?
You know, and I saw the number, but I'm not sure if the number is correct. Obama put a basketball court in with the tennis court and everything that cost more than what this ballroom cost.
Well, the ballroom's costing nothing.
Right, but I mean the
yeah.
actual cost of it, more than what the actual cost is of this.
That's kind of like his presidential library.
Yes.
But there's been a lot done to the White House, and people need. And this is why, again, I didn't get much response. I'll ask it again. This is why I think people need to tune away from the mainstream media and look to other places for other information.
Absolutely.
Like here, for instance.
Yes.
But we'll get to that and more tomorrow. You've been listening to the latest edition of the Barry Foster Show, recorded at the Ridge Floor Studios in the City of Charm, beautiful downtown Avon Park. Any thoughts, ideas, or suggestions for our program, people you'd like us to interview, topics you'd like us to broach, just put them in the comments below. And don't forget to check out our YouTube page at the Barry Foster Show on Facebook and Instagram. If you'd like to advertise, you can send us an email at thebarryfostershow@gmail.com. As we continue to look for truth, justice, and the American way, Barry Foster and John Larsen, and we'll see you next time.